Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton decide to kidnap Dabney Coleman and kick the feminist movement into high gear. It's time to reset the clock because we're about to remake 9 to 5 right. Hello, my fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right. We are a member of the Hollywood Outsider Network. Listen to episodes of Remake This Movie Right on Apple Podcasts, where reviews are appreciated, your podcast app of choice, or just visit the website at remakethismovie.right.com. Remake This Movie Right is a show that takes an original film that has an actual remake in the works, figure out what still clicks and what doesn't, throw a little bit of humor at it, and then we determine exactly how Hollywood should remake it. So by the end of each episode, we will have the remake ready to roll for Hollywood execs and present it to you in movie trailer form. We're here to tell Hollywood how to remake this movie right. I am your host, Darren Peterson, and joining me today, you remember her from The Birds, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Wild Wild West, Amanda Sink.
Hey!
Hey, you haven't been here in a while.
I know. That's your fault.
Okay, well, welcome back.
Thanks.
She also joining us. She made her debut on our Splash episode and is now returning for one of her favorite movies, we don't understand it, ever, Courtney Davenport.
Courtney Davenport, please hold. Courtney Davenport, please hold. Hi, this is Courtney.
You've been waiting all week for that?
She's been practicing in front of the mirror.
Oh, come on, kids. No, I don't want to talk to the dog.
I really want to talk about your life experience with this movie, but you got to tell everybody what this is about. For this episode, we are remaking 9 to 5. What a way to make it's hard to even say the title without starting to sing. It stars Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Dabney Coleman, and Dolly Parton in a tale about 3 female employees of a sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot who find a way to turn the tables on him, basically lock him up in a 50 Shades of Grey kind of way, and then take over the business. So let's talk about initial thoughts and memories on the film. But Courtney, we're going to you first because in all the time that I have known you, this movie apparently is very important to you. And ever since this podcast was started, I think, you said 9 to 5. That's the only one I want is 9 to 5. Why 9 to 5?
I think within 5 minutes of meeting you, I was like, hey, so the Remake podcast, we need to do 9 to 5. Please, please, please. So this was another movie that I watched incessantly when I was younger. I know when I was on the Splash podcast, I talked about how my mother would tape movies off the HBO and the Showtime on all VHS tapes. And this was another tape that got worn out because I would watch it all the time. Mm-hmm. What's really funny is that, of course, I was younger, so I didn't understand half of it. But now I think I put it away for about 10 years. Went back and watched it after becoming a professional woman, and it had such deeper meaning to me. You know, the sexism and the desk farm that they have out there in the bullpen and everything. But I love this movie just because it's so funny, and it's because it's female-led, female-driven, and it's just one of my favorites.
Did you grow up and you wanted to be, who did you want to be? I'm curious, because people seem to associate or assimilate with certain characters in this movie.
I want to be Dabney Coleman because he's the boss.
Well played.
Well, he's not at the end, I guess I could say. Spoiler alert. Although he does get sent to Brazil. That could be pretty exciting.
No, I'm pretty sure he's still the boss. He's just the boss of a Brazilian. I mean, he's, I think, probably been kidnapped by a cartel by now.
Yeah, that's actually what it says in the end. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watched it all the way through, but it says that he was kidnapped and never heard from again.
Yep. Bye. Bye, Dabney. We missed you, Mr. Hart. So who did you assimilate with any of the ladies or?
I really like Lily Tomlin. I like her take charge kind of attitude. I like that she just brings suggestions to her boss, even though he takes credit for them, which sinks. Mm-hmm. I think I probably would identify with Lily Tomlin because those who know me know I have a little bit of a leadership thing. Some people call it bossy. So probably her.
All right. That sounds fair. Amanda, what about you? I think this is the first time you've ever seen it?
This is actually the first time I've seen it. I was not familiar with the property itself until recently, and I had my first watch of it just within the last week or so, and I was laughing hysterically through this entire movie. I was clapping, I was cheering, everything was just hoorah for the ladies in this movie.
Hoorah! It's a military movie.
Hey, I mean, let's motivation.
Semper Fi.
Yeah. But I just really liked everything about it. I enjoyed the diversity between the women too, but then they also have a lot of similarities, and you're able to still connect to it now in 2017, you can see a lot of those same aspects that are still prevalent in our society now. So for me, it was kind of interesting to have women in the 80s that watched it at that time period and connected to it for those reasons, and still being able to connect to it now. It's sad on so many levels, but it's also kind of nice that there's still something that women can go to and feel that connection of women empowerment, and especially in a work field. So
yeah, I'll tell you how I feel. I remember seeing it when it first came out, and I was like, who is Dolly Parton?
She's so adorable.
Yeah, she's adorable, and it's like, what are those? I was young when I first saw it. But the thing that strikes me most, especially upon reflection and rewatching it, was that, wow, this is almost 40 years ago, and it's not a whole lot better in some degrees. I mean, it's better. You see more women that are actively in, not to make it a political thing, but that are more active in the working environment and in elevated levels and executive levels. But I'm telling you, from somebody that works in a corporate environment, a lot of the time, it's definitely still a factor. The boys' club, the minor misogyny. I mean, it's not as bad. It's 40 years later. But it's amazing to me how accurate some of this stuff still is.
I think a lot of that misogyny is more internalized now, because there's the women today. Well,
yeah, you'll get a Facebook status if you say it out loud.
No, but I mean, women are much more defensive for themselves. They're much more willing to...
Assertive?
Yeah, they're much more willing to open up and defend themselves or other women around them and say, we're not putting up with that.
Yeah, you guys got to stop that. It's getting old.
Nah.
Yeah, the sexism nowadays is much more subverted than it was in this movie. Now we're in the age of mandatory sexual harassment trainings once a year if you work for a company of any size at all. Mm-hmm. But I was interested in seeing your opinion of the movie, Amanda, because you are, younger than the two of us.
So, because I've encountered those same experiences before, obviously not to the same severity, but I've never had a boss try to lure me in with a really mediocre scarf that he had his...
Me either, and I'm very disappointed about it.
But it made me sad in reflection after the movie, because I was able to see so many different pieces that are still prevalent now. But while I was watching it, I was able to, like I said, have that connection. And it's still, because those pieces are still prominent now, and while they're sort of being...
I don't think they're as prominent, but they're still there.
Oh, I think they are.
All right. Well, I guess what would I know? I'm a dude.
I think they are. I think I'm
going to start treating people like that if they're going to tie me up and chain me. And Dolly Parton
okay, those situations are not very common to my knowledge. But to being able to still see those situations on screen and say, hey, we can still kind of connect to those. It makes the movie still relatable nowadays, and it makes it hold up still. Because it's not something that's so old and far back and far-fetched where you're like, oh, I don't remember those times. I can't connect to this story whatsoever. Women can still look at this, even if they are younger, even, teenagers now. They could watch this movie and say, I see some of this still. I experience this all of the time. Even if it's not in a work environment, even if it's just going to get gas in your car, men will talk to you and look at you this way. And so it's really, it's interesting, but it's also really just kind of sad and pathetic that we still have these situations to address.
Wow. Well, everybody, we're going to be at the parade later, so.
Rally up.
How old tight. All right, well, let's get back to the movie. It's, before we get into what we liked and what we didn't like, we're going to have a little bit of trivia, but first we also want to make sure to tell you that you can subscribe and review us on Apple Podcasts, we're on Stitcher, and whatever podcast app you use, we are available. If you have your own pitch or thoughts on this week's show, be sure to email it to remakeThisMovieRight@gmail.com. It's remakeThisMovieRight@gmail.com, and we might discuss it on our next listener feedback episode. But first, here's a clip from the original 9 to 5.
Mr. Russell Tinsworthy spends most of his time in Brazil working on the jungle clearance operation. Consequent. Oh, pencils. Yeah.
It's all right. I'll get it.
Here, let me help you with those.
No, that's okay, really. I've got them.
There you go.
Okay.
Dorley.
Yes?
About my conduct in the office here yesterday. I'm afraid I got a little carried away. I'd just like to apologize to you.
Oh, don't you worry about it, Mr. Hart. I've been chased by swifter men than you, and I ain't been caught yet. Shall we get back to our letter now?
Well, yeah. Well, could you just come over here for a second? I have a little something for you. You know, ever since I made that stupid mistake about the convention in San Francisco,
Oh, Mr. Hart, you didn't make a mistake. You see, I'll just have to make sure that the next time I'm asked to go to work at a convention, that there is a convention going on.
Okay, well, now you guys ready for some trivia?
Ready.
All right.
Yep.
Although, Courtney, do you know this? Although there was a television series of the same name, I think it had like 85 episodes or something. It was on for a while.
Yeah, it was on for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a musical version that was very popular with songs written by Dolly Parton. Did you know that?
I did know that there was a Broadway version. I think it had Megan Hilty in it, who was in Wicked, I want to say.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm going to take my notes away. All right.
Maybe she should have done the trivia.
Maybe.
And Allison Janney played Violet, and I think that's pretty perfect.
I could see that. She's very Lily Tomlin-esque.
Not better than my pick at the end of the podcast, but we will get there.
Hey, maybe I'll just, axe the entire Violet concept. Maybe it's going to be 3 guys trying to get a ladies' job. No, I'm not stupid. That would just keep me
I feel
picking
a cut coming on.
The film was based on an idea from Jane Fonda, who had recently formed her own production company, IPC. What I found, this is what she says, what I found was that secretaries know the work they do is important, is skill, but they also know they're not treated with respect. They call themselves office wives. They have to put gas in the boss's car, get his coffee, buy the presents for his wife and mistress. Yeah, remember, ladies, this actually happened in the 80s, and guys, you should remember that this happened. So when we came to do the film, we said to Colin Higgins, the director, okay, what you have to do is write a screenplay which shows you can run an office without a boss, but you can't run an office without the secretaries, which is an interesting way to look at it. They weren't writing it based on show that a woman can run the office. They're showing that the secretaries are valuable. And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it, because you would think in this day and age it would be approached totally different. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Go Jane Fonda. Now the theme song. Courtney, how much of the theme song can you sing?
Oh, I can sing probably the opening verse and definitely the chorus. I do love it so much.
Do you ever do it like you're just walking down the street and you start throwing it?
Start kind of like kicking your heels a little bit, flipping your hair around.
This week I did, but I imagine you're about to talk about how Dolly Parton actually wrote the song, are you?
Well, why don't you go? I love when other people talk for me. It makes it easier.
She did win 2 Grammys and get an Oscar nomination.
Hey, give her a shot. All right, Courtney, come on. Show us the trivia. What do you know?
So Jane Fonda actually lured Dolly Parton into playing the role by saying, I'll let you write the theme song. And Dolly used to have these long acrylic nails, and she actually was one day just tapping out the melody, and she used her nails to just tap it out and segment the melody in her head. So that's really interesting.
Yeah,
and also, she spent an entire year trying to convince Lily Tomlin to be in the role. Lily Tomlin didn't want to do it at first.
Do you know why?
She wasn't that... I think she was doing something else at the time, but she did say that she read the script and she wasn't happy about some of the lines. That one line, are you a man or a mouse or a woman or a mouse? She hated that line. She thought it was so stupid.
I don't know what movie she was working on,
her.
but she was working on another production. They actually had to put it on, like, hold some of the acting portions for her, just for her to be able to finish this production.
She was a pretty big deal in the 80s.
Yeah, she was everywhere. But Jane and lily have remained friends ever since, and they're actually very close friends, even to this day. And I know most people know that they're doing, what is it called, Grace and Frankie? Mm-hmm. But they are actually, in real life, very close friends.
Has Dolly Parton ever showed up on that show?
No, but a lot of fans have been hassling Jane and Lily saying, you got to have Dolly on here. You got to have Dolly on here. And they're sort of talking to her, but they don't want to do it because they can be taken out of the story.
Excellent.
I actually have more factoids if you want them.
Yeah, go ahead. More factoids. I like more factoids.
More factoids. Actually, one more. So the lead characters, I don't know if you realize this, the lead character names were sort of based on their own names. Mm-hmm. Jane is Judy. And Dolly is Doralee, and then Lily is Violet, which is just another flower.
Yeah, I like that. I wish they would have went something a little more close to Jane, like Janet or something. Jean. There you go. That would have been
Joy.
Perfect. That would have been perfect. Did you know the man cast as Doralee's husband was actually married to a close friend of Dolly Parton and had known Dolly for quite some time? She says that's the only reason she was able to kiss that man on camera.
So there's this story that I had read about where Dolly, her husband, didn't come to all of her productions or anything like that, even her music events, except for he did show up for this movie. He did come up to her set for filming. And Jane Fonda, I think it was, saw him, pointed him out as he walked in, was talking about how he was hers. And she obviously had an attraction to him. And Dolly just kind of turned and like embarrassingly told her, like, that's my husband, just FYI. And so there's like this, it was just a really interesting story, kind of funny story that I wish they would have recorded somehow and been able to share later, like just that moment of, oh crap, so sorry that I was hitting on your man a little bit.
Well, that'll teach her to shut the hell up.
She hit on Carl Dean. My goodness.
Oh, look at you with your little
My
southern accent.
stars.
She's been practicing her Dolly this week.
Is that what it is?
Oh, I have family in Georgia. I don't need to practice this.
Well, I saw the movie, so I can fake it. So all three women end up following through on their fantasies to get rid of Mr. Hart. Judy tries to shoot him in the office. Dory lassos him and ties him up in his bedroom, which is my favorite part. And Violet accidentally puts rat poison in his coffee. So all that crappy dream sequences came true.
All their marijuana.
Yeah, all their marijuana fantasies.
Marijuana. I did notice that too, how she says marijuana.
It was so cute.
All right, now let's get to what makes this movie so notable, what we loved about this, favorite moments, ideas, casting, whatever it is that you love about this movie. Courtney, you can do the honors since you love it so much.
I think I really love the sense of girlfriendhood that's going on here. I like the scene when they're giggling by the fireplace because they're passing around the joint and they're just relaxed and opening up to each other. I really love that scene. It just warms my heart because it makes me, remember how I feel when I'm with my girlfriends giggling. Not that we smoke pot because we don't, but we do drink wine. I will admit that. And I love the fantasy sequences. They are so funny, especially the Snow White one. She's like the Snow White harbinger of death.
Ooh, I am so going to be in the opposite of that end for you.
Oh, no. Oh, we're going to battle.
Yeah, I guess it's the difference between giving a guy and a girl, I guess, maybe. It's a sexist thing, because I thought it was awful. But this is the best. So you loved it? That's cool. Why did you love it? Maybe you can convince me I'm stupid.
I love it because it just adds some whimsy to the movie. All three of the fantasy sequences, actually. It really illustrates each girl's personality. And I do love the fact, like you just mentioned, that an aspect of their fantasy does come true in their, antics as the movie goes on. So I thought it was really funny. I loved it.
All right.
I didn't like those scenes as much. They did make me laugh a lot, but upon days of reflection, I've kind of thought about it and I'm like, I don't know if that was really necessary. I feel like they could have gotten laughs from other means, but I do like the connection between their fantasies and them actually acting it out. I just feel like it was a little bit too silly for the movie because it had so many other serious aspects that it was just like, this was too much. And that's honestly probably the only sort of downside I have for this film. Everything else I loved about it. And it's not that I didn't like those, scenes either. It just wasn't my favorite parts. And I think that that's the only thing that could really be adjusted, even if it's just worked on or done a little bit differently.
We're still in love. So you can't do, well, you already.
I was just responding to Courtney's point with that. Yeah.
Well, here's my opinion because those suck. I don't like them. I didn't get it. I don't, but you got to keep in mind, I don't like dream sequences of any kind in any movie.
Fair.
I very rarely will say, that's a good dream sequence because it's never a good dream sequence. And other than the fact that I really like Dolly Parton's, I thought hers was great because basically, okay, so you're going to tie the guy up like cattle and she was adorable. So I was okay with all of that. But outside of that, I just really didn't get into it a whole lot. Just me. But then it might have been a fetish thing on my part that I like that one.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm like, hello, Dolly.
Pretty much everything else in the movie really just worked well for me. Like I said earlier, I really liked that I could still connect to it, seeing it for the first time now, and being able to recognize those things. Not necessarily that I can say I've experienced those things, but to be able to say, I recognize that's an issue and that's not something that I would put up with either. So I kind of like that. And I like that it's more, I just love the female empowerment thing, but it's subtle. It's not like it's in your face. A lot of that, like you had said earlier, Aaron, I think nowadays if it were done exactly the same, it would be done in means of just down with the man.
Yeah.
It would be more down with the man rather than up with the woman in that position. And I really like that they emphasized that women do valuable work. Not just like how they do their jobs or anything, but just they take on so many tasks as secretaries and assistants and in an office environment. And a lot of times they're the ones doing the majority of the work, not the person who has the big title. So I guess for me, it was a lot of that, more kind of like the underlying message behind it. But it was so funny in every part of the film. I was laughing. And I just haven't laughed even at ridiculousness, like of the fantasies and stuff like that. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time at a movie, especially one that, that was done years ago. And it should have kind of lost some of its ability to hold up. And it really didn't for me. Mm-hmm. So
my favorite part is how they play with the archetypes, female archetypes. They worked with, the woman who's been left by her husband for the pretty young thing. They worked with the woman who's constantly being passed over for promotion just because she's a woman. And then the assistant who everybody thinks the boss is having an affair with, and she's not even having an affair with him. I mean, they really played with those, and they did it so it wasn't just, I never felt like you said political. I never felt like it was politicized. It was more of just, we all know this is real, right? So let's just have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like to me. And I really enjoyed that. And the women were strong without having to shove it down your face how strong they were. They were just independent and strong, and you didn't need anything to justify why they were that way. They just were that way. When you walk into the movie, they're already that way. Mm-hmm. They don't need to get to that point. They just need, the motivation to say something, at some point. And Dolly Parton is honestly, I hadn't seen it in probably 15, 20 years. I haven't seen this movie. I forgot how great she is in the movie.
So cute.
She is positively luminous in this movie. That is like the only word that will describe her. Her skin and her eyes, and she just looks so gorgeous. She was 33 when this was filmed.
She was?
She was like 33. She looks a lot younger, I think. But first of all, let's talk about that hairdo. That when she gets in the elevator, her hair gets to the floor 5 minutes earlier than she does. Let's just talk about that.
Is it real, you think? Wig, real? I know what people talk about other things that are real or not, and everything seems real except the hair to me.
I would agree with that. I think everything's real from the neck down. Hair, maybe not so much.
Yeah, maybe not so much. The thing I like about her is she is so natural.
She is.
I really felt, and this is, I'll flip to something I don't like. I really felt like Jane Fonda was trying, because that's a really hard one, because Jane Fonda is one of the most independent women in film. Mm-hmm. She really is. So she had to work overtime to sell it, and I don't think she quite sold the waif. I think she'd never pulled that part across. Now, in the dream sequence, when she's running around with a gun, that looks like Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
And I had no doubt that was Jane Fonda. But the waif part really, I think she struggled with. Dolly Parton, I never for 1 second didn't believe in her, everything she did. She just has the natural ability to feel like a real person.
Did you feel that maybe you knew Jane Fonda more from her Barbarella days? Maybe that's why you found her to be less believable.
No,
as
I felt that way.
Sheepish.
I felt that way the first time I saw the movie, like when I was a kid. She's the one character that I really struggled with where she was. I just felt like she was trying too hard to be weak.
I just disagree. I think she was so good. I think she's very, like, her body type is very slight, and she came across as very mousy to me. Especially, one of my favorite lines of the movie is when her ex-husband comes to the house.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, "Oh, what are you into, this S&M?" And she says, "If I want to do M&Ms, that's my business." I found her really believable. I disagree. But when it comes to Dolly, who I likened her to. And you, Aaron, just recently watched this movie because I wrote in for being a Patreon person. I had you watch How to Marry a Millionaire. And Dolly Parton really reminds me of Marilyn Monroe in that movie.
Yes,
just slyly funny, really sweet and good-natured. I was really reminded of Marilyn in Dolly's performance for sure. And it's not just the hair.
No, it's not. And I will this is a legitimate comment. There are very few people, I will say, in the history of film that are effortlessly natural, that really just feel like genuinely this is who they are as people. You know, when the camera's off, this is probably who they are. And this is exactly what I felt like with her. Now, I've heard from other people throughout the years she's a wonderful person, and, you know, that they've met her and stuff like that. I'm sure, I have no doubt, because this movie convinced me that either you are a stellar actress or you are just that good a person. She just feels like a good person. And I loved it. It's almost iconic in how natural she is. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I really felt like it. On the flip side, I couldn't watch this movie without thinking, Lily Tomlin, you are talented, you are funny, and you look just like Tim Curry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I don't know. Is it Tim Curry? Is it Lily Tomlin? I don't know what's going on. That's what I felt like. I know that's not it is a nice thing to say, because I love both of them. Tim Curry is great too. but there are moments, especially when she's, you know, just grinning ear to ear because of something mischievous. It's totally, I'm like, that's a little Curry going on right there.
Now that's all I'm going to see every time I think of this movie.
Welcome.
Disagree. I think she looks really lovely, especially with her red lipstick and her matching red earrings. It's so cute. Yeah. I like it.
You know who else had that? Frankenfurter.
Oh, for goodness sake. So, wait, going back to Dolly, though, do you know, I mean, I know you know Dolly's longevity. She's still kicking around, but she is a mogul on a level of, like, Sean P. Diddy Combs and Michael Jackson. She has Dollywood. She developed that whole town. She's a gazillionaire, and she's had such tight control over her entire image. When you start looking into Dolly Parton, it's actually really fascinating.
It's amazing how much she has kept. Now, I don't know if it's because when you're dealing with celebrities, you're always dealing with how much is controlled chaos and how much is really them. She has hardly any. She has no drama. She has no scandal. Everything seems genuine, just like I said, natural. She seems like that's just the life she's had. She kept to her values, and she tried to be a good person and do good to others. And I think there's probably people that think, well, she's a sexy woman, and, you know, there had to have been some scandal there or something. And I don't think there's anything. She just seems like a really good person who's been good her whole life, and just
she never let fame get to her.
Yeah, it never went to her head. Yeah. You know, it never felt like that's all she cared about. She cared about people, and she did Dollywood, and I think she probably did it more for the people than herself.
Right, and think about when she started back in the day. She was able to tightly control her image and her work and her output in a way that I think most stars don't get to.
Yeah,
she's called the shots the whole way. So I really respect her quite a bit.
All right, let's just talk about that. Let's make it a Dolly cast.
Yeah, let's just love on Dolly. Why not?
Remake this Dolly right.
Yeah.
You can't remake her right. She is right.
She's perfection.
The only other thing about the movie I really struggle with is I think the structure is a little wonky. I really do. The resolution, I think, is a little bit of a joke. Now, granted, I'm saying I enjoy the movie. I think the movie's funny. But I think it took about like an hour for them to really get to it. And then it was over in a blink of an eye, I felt like. And the whole he escapes and comes back and everything's wrapped up with a pretty bow. I thought that was a little, okay, now you're stretching a little bit.
That did move a little bit faster than the beginning of the film. So I can see your point.
It's almost like, how do we get those crazy Duke boys out of this one?
See, but you're just focused on everything else that's happening in the film, like laughing with them and their progression within their character arcs and everything, that I feel like that just kind of got dismissed for me. Like it just was, it's one of those few times where it's not, do that. Yeah, where it's just not an important situation where even if you recognize that, you're like, yeah, but everything else kind of makes up for it. But I can definitely see how that structure is a little bit uneven.
All right. Well, should this movie even be remade, or should it be placed in don't touch status? Courtney, it's your baby. Yeah? No?
Oh my God. Yes. I want to see it remade. I think the antics are really fun. I think they could be modernized, and I have the cast in my head. So
she wants her movie made.
Well, she only gets one cut, so she better be picky and choosy about those people she's got.
Yep.
All right. Amanda, you think it could be remade?
For the concerns I brought up earlier and that you had mentioned as well, I honestly would rather it not be remade, because I worry that it would taint the actual original property in its image, because I think it would turn into a man-hating film. And I really don't want that to be the struggle. And I feel like there's not many ways to approach that right now in society. So I would say I would rather it not be done. But since we're all here, let's just make sure we do it right.
Aha! Here's what I would say. It's been almost 40 years. The younger generation is not going to watch this movie unless they have to for a podcast. So I honestly think it's a perfect time to remake it. Many of the people under 30 probably have never even seen it and never will. So I think it's a great opportunity. And it's a good story. The story's still relevant. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as relevant, but it's still relevant. So who doesn't want to kidnap their boss?
Me.
All right.
I like her. She's a good friend.
I gotcha. Okay, well.
Yeah, I like mine too.
I guess it's just you.
I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to kidnap my boss. All right. Well, guys, let's get into our remake. But first, here's another clip from the original 9 to 5.
Now, let me finish, okay? And don't go flying off the handle.
You gave that promotion to Bob Enright instead of me. I've got 5 years seniority over him.
I know that.
For Christ's sake, I trained him.
I know that, but see, the company feels...
Oh, the company bullshit. It's your decision. You promoted him. You tell me why.
Well, in the first place, see, Bob does have a college degree.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. While he's away at college getting his precious, useless degree, I'm working my butt off at this company.
And in the second place, he does have a family to support.
And I don't? What has that got to do with
Wait,
anything?
Violet, look, my hands are tied here. The company needs a man in this position. Clients would rather deal with men when it comes to figures.
Oh, now we're getting at it. I lose a promotion because of some idiot prejudice. The boys in the club are threatened, and you're so intimidated by any woman that won't sit at the back of the bus.
Spare me the women's lib crap, okay? Now, I know how you feel, and I understand it.
You understand zilch.
I understand I'm still a boss here. And even though you might be pretty valuable out there, you better get a hold of yourself. I'm not going to sit here and take this.
Okay, so here's what we know about the intended remake that's currently in the works. It's been bandied about for years. Will Smith apparently bought the rights. He was planning on a remake to put his wife in one of the lead roles, Jada Pinkett Smith. And as of right now, we don't know exactly what's going on with that. So apparently, they're trying to find out what direction they want to go. And there's been, I think, no more movement about it since then.
I could actually see her in this film.
Jada Pinkett Smith?
Uh-huh.
She's great in Girls Trip. So.
Oh, yeah, she sure was. Mm-hmm.
She played Meek great there, and then she opened up like a flower. So.
I never even thought of her. I think she would actually be really
add her to the list. I sure hope Courtney can approve.
Yeah, she's okay, but...
Well, since this movie's getting a remake, and as fans, we always think we know the best way to do it. How should Hollywood remake it? Now, remember, we're making one cohesive movie. Everybody gets to make their pitch, and then we're going to put them all together and come up with the best idea of those three. All selections are settled by a best of 3 vote, with each host receiving 1 cut per episode to be used whenever they're extremely passionate about an idea. Do not use it to be funny, please. Everybody understand these rules?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
we
accept
do.
the terms and conditions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, who wants to go first? I think, Courtney, you've gone first a lot, so you're going to hold your horses. Amanda, why don't you go ahead and whip out your pitch?
All right. So I'm going to piss people off real fast early on in this episode. So I decided that I kind of want to go with a little bit darker take, where they basically take their boss out drinking to try and catch him cheating to use it as blackmail. He's been sleeping with a mistress who's actually another employee in the office, not one of the 3 main ladies.
Okay.
And she's also fed up with how he treats her too, in terms of the work environment.
So there's 4 women now?
She is not a prominent character.
Oh.
She's not like one of the main 3, but they do use her. So, and she willingly does this. Okay. So the wife knew about the affair. She was kind of already aware of it. And she tracked them down the night that he was out drinking with his coworkers and this mistress. And she catches them all drinking and laughing, and you can see that she starts to get angry. And they all have kind of similar reasons to the original of why they're angry with their boss. I want Violet's character to still, have a promotion that she deserves, and she gets turned down. I also had this idea, and this is going to be very controversial probably, where he actually physically slaps her when she tries to defend herself against him and try to explain why she feels she deserves a promotion.
Ooh, somebody's angry.
Yeah, so this kind of like leads up with the character where I get to at the end. So Dora Lee, she's at same thing where she's constantly hit on and degraded and basically only valued as a physical object. Judy is just invisible and kind of dismissed. And there comes a moment where everyone's dancing because they're all out drinking. Everyone's dancing and we don't see everyone's face. It's just kind of like a more fast-paced sort of thing. And the camera pans down to his drink and all we see is like a crushed pill kind of being tossed into his drink. And we don't see whose face it is. So as the audience,
it's Bill Cosby.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, I thought we were going somewhere else. Sorry.
As the audience, we don't know who did it. The characters don't know who did it. They don't even realize that it's happened. So, they come back to their drinks, they all drink, and they actually take him back to their home. Because remember, their plan is to blackmail him by catching him, recording him cheating, essentially, with the mistress, and she's in on it. So he ends up having a reaction and actually dies at their house. It sort of seems like he's just having a heart attack.
He dies?
Yes. Wait, just listen to me.
Oh my God, woman.
Just listen.
Amanda, do you need a hug?
No. Listen, I have ideas. Let me finish.
Okay.
So,
does it end up like a weekend at Bernie's? I don't know what's going on here.
Actually, sort of. So,
they jam a freaking thing up his ass and they carry him around the office building. Hi, I'm Mr. Hart.
Okay, so they think it's just a heart attack because it kind of seems like it's a heart attack, but little do they know it's actually from whatever pill was crushed into his drink and he's having a reaction to it. It happens in the middle of a striptease, so I want it to be kind of fun and playful. So the mistress is trying to do the striptease.
Okay, he's dead. I don't even know how he died.
Since none of them think any of them have a part in it, they fear that they're going to be considered guilty because they had this plan in advance to blackmail him. And so they decide to try to hide the body. So this is kind of where I want it to still stick with the original, where it's very lighthearted. And every time they try to do something to hide his body and get rid of it, something funny happens. So, like, let's say they bury him and they live in an area where there's a lot of water and they don't bury him deep. So his body comes back up, like it floods, the ground floods and his body pops back up.
Okay.
So to try to keep it more lighthearted so it's not entirely dark through the entire film. And then when he's missing, they put Violet in charge, so she continues to feel like she has that power. Judy and Doralee run the business, all together, the three of them, kind of like it just was in the 9 to 5 original. And then as a throwback, I want Dolly Parton to come in singing the 9 to 5 song when she promotes Violet, because I actually want her to play Tinsworthy's character, but as a female, and it's Dolly Parton. And so she actually promotes Violet because they can't find him. It's been a little bit of time and they need to have somebody in charge of it. So they never end up finding his body or what happened to him. He gets declared dead. Basically, they just kind of move on with the case because they can't find anything else. They ended up hiding his body, getting rid of it. And the women continue in their roles, promoted. Throughout the whole movie, we're given a lot of insight as to how angry the wife is about the affair. Mm-hmm. And with the mistress. And so we kind of think that she's the one who killed him this whole time. But the last scene of the movie, we actually see Violet open up like a little mini pill container from her purse and she pops a pill. And that's kind of the only just the only implication that she's actually the one who's guilty. So none of the other girls know at the end of the movie. We just see her do that. So the audience has some sort of closure with it. And she just kind of fiercely just walks away. So it's darker.
This is a comedy?
The comedy is the part where, I
feel like Gone Girl's going to show up at some point.
No, but the funny parts to keep it lighthearted are them trying to get rid of the body because they've freaked out about it. So the death of him, itself, that's the darkest part of it. And that leading scene. But then once they try to hide the body and all of that sort of thing, that's where it kind of brings more laughter into it and ties it back to the original.
I do like that you went a different way. It's not just a recreation of the same movie.
No, because you can't recreate it and do it justice, I don't feel like.
I bet you we're going to disagree with you, but I like that. It's a cool idea. I mean, it's dark as hell, but it's a cool idea. I don't think Dolly Parton's going to sign on for it, though.
She gets to sing her song and promote.
Yeah, because that song's going to work in that movie.
Yeah, everybody's just going to be celebrating. Hey, we never found him. He's probably dead. Let's
what
talk
a
about
way
it.
to kill your boss. Working. All right, Courtney, you or me?
You go ahead.
Okay. My pitch is the CEO is Mr. Hart, sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical, bigot. And 3 women, a VP, an executive assistant, and the new marketing manager, slowly realize that Mr. Hart has not has been not only embezzling money, but passing them all over in favor of male replacements. He's the typical old white guy doing what old white guys do. Oh, and he's also spreading the lies that he's having an affair with his assistant. The VP, Violet, she attempts to inform on him to another executive, but the boys club kind of protects him. So they kind of basically tell her, hey, you're talking about the boss, unless you have some concrete proof, get out of here. And Mr. Hart threatens to toss her out on her ass. That leads to her venting to the other women who are sick of all of his misogyny. So they purposely, this is really important to me, I don't want any of the accidental crap, because that really bothered me that they kind of made it, oh look, we accidentally kidnapped somebody, because what are we supposed to do? I want them to plan and actually kidnap, almost like a heist, Mr. Hart, and kidnap him. And then while he's gone, they intentionally make changes within the company to level the playing field, to make it more of equal opportunity, so to speak. I want them to do similar things within the office to make it more female-friendly, but the resolution is that Mr. Hart does escape, and he does call on the authorities. But when they arrive to arrest the ladies, that's when they choose to unveil the embezzlement of Mr. Hart, and the police immediately no longer believe his story. So they end up taking him into custody because they don't believe, because it's basically the man logic. Well, these three women just kidnapped you and did all of these things that you're saying they did. That just sounds nuts. And the embezzlement is already proven, so they take him into custody. And then the company rewards them for uncovering his schemes, and they earn promotions along the way. And nobody dies, and it's very funny. That's what I've got.
You have the same vindictive idea I do. Mine just ends up with him actually dead.
Yeah, yours feels like a hug waiting to happen.
No,
I like that you took a chance with it. That's something to admire, because most of the people don't want to take a chance with the cherished classic. That's the different way to do it. Now, what about you, Courtney? I'm curious what yours is.
Well, so mine is the one that doesn't take a whole lot of chances with the cherished classic. So mine, okay, we still followed Judy on her first day of work. She, was a stay-at-home wife. I'm going to say she had an Etsy business, because if you remember, Judy shows up to work with this huge hat and this big fat bow on her neck. So maybe our new Judy will show up with a bunch of homemade flowers and bows on her. We follow her for her first day of work. She's not very computer savvy, so we can have a scene like in the Xerox room. But my idea, instead of the Xerox machine kind of blowing up at her, and this comes from what I see in my line of work every day. I work in commercial property management. So there's always a smoke detector, and it's usually in a kitchen. And there's bright people who decide to put the toaster right underneath the smoke detector. And then they decide to hook a piece of toast and walk away from it and let it burn. So it'll set off the smoke detector and the entire building has to evacuate, all because someone decided to burn a piece of toast.
Oh, that's almost as bad as leaving your oven on, man.
Yeah. Well, oh, hey. I am sure I don't know what you're talking about. So that's her big disaster on her first day, and she's flustered and everything. Mr. Hart is still there. Doralee is still his assistant, but she isn't really a country western girl. I'm taking her in another direction, and I'll explain that if I get to cast her.
Grunge.
Not quite.
Okay.
And then Violet still doesn't get the promotion she was counting on and is furious. They have their night of drinking after the fire alarm situation. She discovers that he is diverting shipments to a separate warehouse. They actually sell medical supplies in my version. And so he's diverting shipments to warehouses that he has bought, and he's selling them on the black market. And he's bought the warehouses so that nobody else will come in and inspect them. In my version, he's not married, so there's no wife to worry about sending on a trip. They they wind up doing all the antics and poisoning him. They keep him tied up, but only for a week, because I had to ask myself, did I want to set this movie back in the 80s or set it now? Because that changes it takes 6 weeks to pull invoices. Obviously, that would not happen in the modern day. It's beep, boop, and you have them all up. Although you might need to research a little bit, or you might need to, look at them and analyze them. So maybe they keep him tied up for like a week. So the girls decide to keep everybody distracted by sending them all out of the office to do a community service project. And so that way, nobody is asking where he is. Let's say they do something for like Habitat for Humanity. And so Violet signs his name to say everybody's going to participate in this project all week long. That gets everybody out of the office for the week while they're researching the invoices. So she winds up orchestrating a purchase of all of the warehouses, because remember I said that he owns them. Mm-hmm. She purchases them on behalf of the company for $1, which screws him out of all this research. And then she tells the higher-ups it was from an anonymous seller who appreciated the fact that the company participated in this week-long community service project, that they would stop business and just go and build homes. So she impresses the president, who promotes Violet to head of real estate, and then Violet promotes her girls up, and everybody's happy. So what happens to Hart is that he does wind up escaping, and he gets out and he's free, but he's wandering the streets with like the ball gag in his mouth still and the crazy outfit on, and someone just pulls up who's like a serial killer and just kidnaps him and takes him away, who has a weird fetish, and he's never heard from again.
Mike, what the hell's wrong with you people?
So yeah, I kind of kill him at the end too, don't I?
Sometimes you just got to get rid of the problem.
Wow, the worst I came up with was he's going to wander into the Blue Oyster Club, and that's more of an 80s reference that most people won't get. But wow, I didn't have him dying. Apparently, you guys just don't want him to live.
Well, who knows? Maybe he doesn't die. Maybe he, realizes that this person who is who he wants to be with, and they go off and live a happily ever after life. I don't know. With their M&M lifestyle.
With your M&M lifestyle. All right, so now we got to come to a conclusion of what direction we want to go. Wow, there's a whole lot. Well, first, does Mr. Hart live or die?
I don't want him to live. I want them to purposely.
Well, there's two of you that want him dead. So, I mean, that's really, that overrules me. The only thing I definitely think is important is that I think the women have to earn their promotions. I feel like it was almost a victim of, the promotion was almost a victim of happenstance versus them realizing she was the best fit for the job. You know what I mean? You're so good, we're going to send you to Brazil. So technically, Violet was so good, she's the one that should have went to Brazil. You know what I mean? I didn't like that aspect of it personally. That's really the only thing I want. I want the women to realize that, or their upper management to realize they deserve these promotions because they kick ass. And the boss wasn't really that great.
Well, sort of in a way they actually do in the original, because it's never determined that they're the ones who created all of those plans. They think that Hart did all of those programs.
But the reward was get sent to Brazil, and even though that doesn't seem like a reward, they still thought he was the man.
Right, but that shows that their work was valuable enough, that their ideas, that their intellect was important enough. I understand that,
but it almost feels like he got rewarded, and that's the only reason they got anything out of it. And I personally think just
that they should get all of the honor.
They did the work. Let's let them have the work. Boss,
right. In the original, the audience sees that their work was the right way to go, but the boss didn't see it because he decides to send Hart out to a promotion, quote unquote.
He still thinks Hart did all this cool stuff, and it was the women.
But see, in that vein, though, I take a little issue with your version, Aaron, because you have them, getting together and venting about their frustrations. And so they feel like their only way to solve this is by kidnapping him, not, working hard, pushing through.
See, the way I see it is they've already done that. And he's not going to let them get to the next level. And they just, basically Violet snaps. Now, I don't know what they're hoping to gain from it other than I haven't worked that through. But I like the idea that there's a heist. I just felt like the whole accidental kidnapping thing was ridiculous. I don't think it's going to play in this day and age because people are just too cynical to buy into that. I don't care how screwball the comedy is. It's not going to work. So in that respect, I would probably, I'm okay with him dying. I don't know about how you made it a murder mystery, Amanda. I think that's a different kind of movie.
Well, I didn't want it to taint like the other...
Because you can't have your three women responsible for his death. I think that's hard to buy into. These characters deserve promotions. They deserve to get ahead when they're willing to kill the boss to do it.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the audience turning against Violet at the end.
I'm turning against her. I'm like, I don't want anybody's going to get promoted that might kill me. If, that's just bad.
Yeah, if I were those other two women, I'd be watching my back.
Well, the thing is, they never know. Until, the very end, they still never know.
I'm okay with, his wife poisoning him.
Yeah, but I feel like that's too cliche.
Yeah, and they'll see it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
Well, we got to come up with one movie. So I'm gonna lean toward Courtney's idea more than yours. I like the idea. I think it's not necessarily the best 9 to 5 remake idea because it's too far the other way. But there's got to be somewhere in the middle.
So mine actually
You can
changes more of the
I'm saving mine.
nature of the company and the end portion of it about how the chips fall without Hart. So we could use you two's version of the heist, the antics.
I like the
that
whole
happened
Habitat
earlier.
of Humanity, sort of Habitat for Humanity situation. Well, because there's a lot of different dynamics in terms of that, and I wasn't going to rehash all of them.
Here, you both want him dead. How about this compromise? So once the ladies catch him and then they earn their promotions, then someone poisons him and we don't see who. And it's only alluded to that it's Violet afterward, because then they've already earned it. I don't care so much. I mean, because if you never clearly say it's Violet, it's more of like Inception, where you just see the top spin. You know, if
I was just thinking Inception.
yeah, I mean, then I think that could be cool, because then, or maybe they don't even say that. You basically are given with, you've got the three women, you got the mistress, you've got the wife. Who knows who did it? We just know that he's a piece of crap and somebody killed him at the end.
I could be okay with that.
I like it. I can work with it.
And he doesn't
Even
get
ambiguous.
to go off and possibly come back to the office after his tour in Brazil.
Hart the Revenge!
Exactly. There we go. Okay. I think we've got a movie. Yes?
I feel like there's still some details missing.
All right. What are some details missing, Amanda?
We need the antics, the heist. We need those details filled in.
It has to be purpose. That's my one thing. That's the only thing I really care. I'm diehard about. I want it to be an intentional kidnapping. Not, my goodness. I just came in here and I started shooting up the office and nobody heard that. I mean, I know they just left, but are they all the way out of the building down the street? That'll never fly in today's life. So it's got to be intentional.
See, these are smart women. I don't love the idea that they feel like their only recourse is to just kidnap him and lead into a life of crime.
Maybe.
Well, I don't think
hang on. I got an idea. Violet she went to his crony, and his crony, with the evidence, and the crony's like, no, that's not the way. And then that's not going to do it. He's not responsible. So Mr. Hart calls her into the office and says, I know what you found. He talked to me, and while they're alone, and says, so here's what's going to happen. If you don't get rid of that, I'm gonna frame you for it. I already changed the books. I already flipped it. So they kidnap him to force him to change it back. That's why they do it, to protect Violet. Because if he doesn't change it back, she's going to jail, and she has no way to ever get out of that loophole.
And
I think I could.
And in the course of that, she's able to show that she knows what she's doing, and she's intellectual enough to earn her own promotion. Yeah,
I think basically when they kidnap him, and like Courtney said, just for a week, which I thought, however long, it was like 6 weeks or something. I mean,
it was a long time.
Even in the 80s, that seems like a stretch. But I think if you take that week and you just basically say the boss is taking a leave of absence, personal issue or whatever.
Well, if you do the Habitat for Humanity thing, that kind of negates the whole need for his,
And then they make it known the changes that they're making within the company. Heck, some of those changes you could still make because a lot of companies don't do them still. So there you go. And I think that would work it out.
I think then it takes away the worry of them not seeming like they're intelligent enough to be forthcoming and try to resolve the situation.
And they're doing it to protect their friend as opposed to just random happenstance and coincidence.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yep, me too.
Okay.
I'm down.
Sweet. Is there any other details we need to work out?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's really not that complicated of a plot.
Mm-mm.
And it's not as dark as Amanda wanted. But he will die at the end, so we're all good.
Yes! Hart dies at the end. Hart dies at the end.
I think we still do the pill thing. You just see like a female hand drop the pill in a glass. He drinks it, dies. Or you see him clunk out or something at the end, and you never know who does it. I don't want to know who does it, because that leaves the audience kind of wondering.
Okay. I agree.
Which one of these crazy chicks is going to kill somebody?
I just don't want the audience turning against any one of our three main girls. So, yes.
Well, if you set it up in a situation where the wife and the mistress are all there, because that was kind of in my scenario, even as dark as it was, you still had the mistress at the place drinking with them, and that you were witnessing from the wife's eyes what was happening because she followed them there. Mm-hmm. So the entire movie, up until the last scene where you see Violet take a pill.
Well, that's not part of this, though.
I know. I'm saying in my situation, I had still made it so it wasn't like it was left to those three.
They're celebrating. They're celebrating Violet's promotion, and at that point he realizes that he can't win because they have the evidence. He's busted, whatever. And so he's not going to be okay. So they have a party maybe, and that's where somebody spikes his drink.
I like it.
As they're taking him out, and he's drinking, thinking he's all free and clear, and he's not free.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
All right, sweetness. Now there's a couple of final things. One, who's going to direct it? Who's got a good director? Amanda, you got a good director?
I had a couple thoughts. I first wanted to stick with a female, like I wanted to do a female director. But the ones that I like a lot, I don't know if they would do something that's more comedic. Like Catherine Bigelow, I really like her, but she's done a lot more. It worked for mine, but with this situation, I don't know that
it does. Yeah, definitely does
she
not.
wouldn't. So I kind of actually thought of like Paul Feig, because I actually like him with comedies. I know he's controversial.
My choice too.
Is he?
Well, then it doesn't matter who I have.
Winner, chicken dinner.
High five. Woo!
Doesn't matter who I've got, so I guess we move on.
Who did you have?
I had Malcolm D. Lee. He did Girls Trip.
Oh, that's a good choice. Oh man, no, now I'm torn.
No, you're not. No,
Yes.
you're not torn.
Oh,
Paul Feig can do it. He's got a history with women, so it's fine. All right, now characters.
Sad
Now,
face.
based on our remake, who are the women you want? Who are
I
the
think
three
Courtney
ladies?
should lead this.
Courtney, who's your picks for your three women?
I've been waiting for this moment
I've
for
been
so long.
waiting for a girl.
Okay,
like these.
I did cast actually all 4 of the leads, all 3 women, and then Hart.
So
Me
did
too.
I.
So-
Yeah.
So did I. So let's all throw it out and we'll see where we end up.
Excellent.
Boom.
To me, so Lily Tomlin is a comedic icon. No, she does not look like Tim Curry. Disagree there, but whatever.
Try to not see it now. Go ahead.
Nope. I'm
When
gonna
she
stand by my
smiles,
girl.
I can see it in my head now.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm sorry.
I'm just a sweet
was-
transvestite.
Goodness.
Can we have like a
are
clip
wrong.
of Tim Curry like just come into the movie at some point?
Transylvania. Ha, ha.
Ooh, I am deeply offended on behalf of Lily Tomlin.
I love Lily Tomlin. Doesn't mean that I can't make that observation. Okay.
Okay, so to me, our modern day Lily Tomlin, our female iconic comedic actress is Tina Fey. Tina Fey would be a great Violet. I happen to know someone in my life who has a family connection to someone who is friends with Tina Fey. And I know you're listening, girl, so make that phone call. I need this movie to happen. I'll wait.
I know a lady who knows a lady who knows a lady who can
Yes.
get this done.
I mean, Tina Fey, just the movies that she's done and 30 Rock, she can do anything. I want her to be Violet.
Okay.
Do you want me to go on with my other characters?
Yeah, go
or
ahead.
do
Go
you
ahead.
guys want to discuss your
Throw your 3 out there and or your 4, and then we'll each do our own.
Okay. So my Judy, I struggled with a little bit because there's a lot of actresses that Tina Fey really plays off well with, that she works with a lot, but I wound up going with Kristen Wiig for Judy, because of her character in Ghostbusters. She plays a really good straight woman.
Mm-hmm.
Her character in that movie, she was the calm center in the storm for sure. And I thought she'd be really funny if we went with my idea of Judy being like a stay-at-home Etsy kind of a person with the bows and the flowers and everything. She would be really funny there. The Dora Lee character, like I said, I went in a totally different direction because just the Dora Lee portrayal by Dolly Parton, I think you guys will agree, just needs to be put up on the Pantheon, untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with Tiffany Haddish with that. Because I know you like her, Aaron, because you just saw her in Girls Trip, and I know you're a big fan of her.
She's also my Dolly Parton replacement. True story.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought it would be cool to go in a different direction, make her like a really well-educated, but kind of an ingenue person who comes into the office to be his assistant. And then the boss character could make just a ton of inappropriate jokes to her, and she could use this opportunity to just set the record straight and put him in his place, which would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Hart, I'm kind of excited about too, because I picked an actor who has been famous for a number of years now for a specific role on a TV show that is wildly different from the Hart character. I picked Hugh Bonneville, who is Lord Grantham on Downton Abbey, who is so proper, so refined, so British, that this would give him a fantastic opportunity to just be raunchy and terrible. And I could see him playing off Tiffany Haddish in a really strange and unexpected way. So he would just say absolutely inappropriate stuff to her, and she'd have to put him in his place.
Okay. Now, Amanda, your turn.
Okay, let me start by saying I don't still believe that my Violet is the best because mine was with a more dark tone. So I had Emily Blunt for mine because I feel like she could play, the dark character really well. For Judy, I had Kate McKinnon because I feel like she could play that kind of ditzy, dorky, weird character. We've seen her play it many times before, and it really works for her. And she's great at bringing humor to the scene and making weird situations even weirder.
Okay. I considered her for Judy also.
Did you? Okay,
I considered her and Amy Poehler for Judy. I had a really hard time with Judy.
All right, well, we're doing Kate McKinnon. So on to Doralee. I actually had Emma Watson because I wanted to pick somebody who people now can connect to as someone who empowers women outside of movies and within movies, younger and middle-aged generations. And so I really wanted Emma Watson because she is kind of the epitome of that woman empowerment, especially in youth.
Because her last big movie, she played a woman that fell in love with the guy that kidnapped her?
No. Just because of what
That's not how you pick ladies up, guys. I'm just letting you know.
Just because of actually what she does as a person and how educated she is. She's a Harvard-educated woman, and I feel like she would be able to play really adorable and sweet, but also really educated and forthcoming. And
you know how you know somebody's Harvard-educated? You ask them, and they're happy to tell you that they are.
I thought they wear the shirt everywhere. I thought that was the thing.
I think so. That they do
it's
that.
It's a combination.
Too. Yeah, very prominent. And you're Mr. Hart?
I had Gary Cole.
Hey, that's kind of cool.
I really thought he would fit perfectly in this, especially because he's been in an office role before. But I just think that he's a character, like a super douchebag character in Suits. Mm-hmm. And since I've seen that kind of aspect of him, I feel like he could play the douchebag really well in this movie.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday. All right, so there's so my cast is I had Charlize Theron for Violet. That was my choice.
Shit.
For Judy, I had Milana Vintrub, who's AT&T. She's from the AT&T commercial because I think she's extremely funny and adorable and would make a good Judy because I think she could play a waif. And I had Tiffany Haddish for the last one. Now, we already talked about that. Now, my Mr. Hart, I went a little different, though. So I hope this part I hope you guys appreciate this. And it actually lines up with your director choice. I wanted someone who doesn't come across as a jackass right off the bat. I think that's the easy way to go. I think Dabney Coleman was kind of, for the 80s, he was that guy. He was a guy that just looked like a douche. He looked like a guy that would probably diddle you at a family picnic. He just looked very inappropriate. And I want to go with Chris Hemsworth. I think you have a guy who is extremely charming, who is disarming, who people don't believe would be the guy that he is behind closed doors. And I think Chris Hemsworth would play that to an alarming degree. Those are my picks.
I like the concept of having somebody different that doesn't come off as a douchebag immediately, but I don't know if Chris Hemsworth fits it for me.
Why?
He seems too sweet. Like
he's too handsome to have to manipulate women to,
Well, handsome men do that. But I mean,
that's kind of my point.
I know, but I don't
think there's too many stereotypical ways to go with it. And
I like the route you're going. I just don't know if I just don't really feel like he would be capable of going as dark and manipulative as this character kind of needs him to be. But I do like the concept of, but I don't know who it would be that would be better to kind of make us feel like he's a really sweet guy and everybody else, except when the doors are closed. I don't know who would be the best fit for something like that.
Well, now let's go through it. Let's nail this. Let's pick our final one. So let's see, Violet, we have Tina Fey, Emily Blunt, and Charlize Theron. Who's ready to make a switch? I'll go to Tina Fey.
Man, I was kind of sold on Charlize too, though. She's so good. She's so good.
Tina.
Well, if you both are picking Tina, it doesn't matter.
Hey, if you're thinking about jumping to my side, I'll back off a little bit. I'll give you some room. I'll give you some room.
Oh, man, it's so difficult. I don't know if she could be funny enough, though.
She's Charlize Theron. She can do anything she wants.
She
Literally
probably could.
Anything she wants.
Yeah. She is super all about women and women
his
empowerment.
Ass when it's all over.
Oh my God. This is the
Are you saying Tina
decision.
can't fight? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Can we flip a coin?
Nope. Nope. I'll go to Tina Fey. I love Tina Fey,
right.
so you
Don't
can't
make me decide.
You can't lose with Tina Fey. All right, the next one we have Judy, who'd be Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, or Milana Ventrub. I'll move to Kate McKinnon's side on that one.
I love
Yeah,
her.
I'll concur with that. We can do Kate McKinnon.
Okay, and we have Tiffany Haddish is already 2-1.
Yeah,
so
I want her anyway.
Yeah, sorry, Emma Watson. I guess
I
guess you can always fall back on Harvard.
I really think she would be great in some sort of role like that, but I really Tiffany Haddish sold me so much in Girls Trip. Not even just in Girls Trip, but in her interviews. Like, she's the person I want to hang out with on a Girls Trip. Like, I want somebody that ridiculous that makes me laugh as much as she does. And if she can provide, and I know she will, or she would if this were real, like if this actually happened and they took our advice, if she were in this role, she would sell this whole movie and make everything just every bit as hysterical as it was when I actually watched this movie for the first time.
Yeah, Tiffany Haddish is on the way on the come up. Like, Emma Watson's got that Harry Potter money. She doesn't need this.
She's got that Harry Potter money.
Tiffany Haddish is like high-fiving you right now.
Now,
right? I know.
Lastly, we've got Mr. Hart. We've got Hugh Grantham, Gary Cole, or Chris Hemsworth. You want to? It's
actually Hugh Bonneville, not Hugh Grantham. You're confusing him with his character.
Okay, Hugh Grant. Is that what you said? No, Hugh Bonneville.
No, he'd be good too.
I honestly don't know who this Hugh character is.
Well, here's where I'm going to throw out a cut, ladies.
Oh boy,
because that's how much I believe in the Hemsworth. So Hemsworth.
Am I allowed to throw out a cut after you've thrown your cut?
Can't cut a cut. Nope. That's well established in the Remake This Movie Right database. So I'm sorry, it's going to be Chris Hemsworth.
I'm going to need you to provide a section and a paragraph in the rules.
Yep.
She's going to take you to court for this.
The listeners will probably have timestamps ready, so be prepared. Sorry, it's a Hemsworth. Sucker. Should have cut it earlier. All right. Nostalgic moments. Anything you have to have in here is like
9
a
to
nod?
5 song, obviously.
Do you remake it as do you do the original song, or do you remake it like they did with Ghostbusters and make it alt rock?
No, I'm not a country, I'm not a Western kind of listener. I don't like that music at all. It gives me a headache. But Dolly Parton is so sweet in every song that she does. And that song's not that Western to me. It's not very, it has like it has a little bit of twang to it, but it's not over the edge. It's still just kind of like a sweet, I don't want to say pop. It's not pop.
Well, it was like 80s pop. It's very catchy.
Yeah, it's catchy.
It's like 80s pop. And the only twang is really her voice.
And even then, like in this song, it's very mellowed out, I feel like. So I would say keep the song in.
How would you do it, Courtney? Would you want to keep the song? You're the one that loves it more than life itself.
I do think the song needs to stay in. I could see the song being upgraded into a new version, sung by some new people. That would be really interesting, but I think I'm going to throw my cut because I know you guys will argue with me about something, about a nostalgic moment that I want to stay in the movie.
She's going to say the little birds.
Yes, I want the fantasy sequences.
Oh, no!
Yes,
no!
They are staying.
No!
How does it even fit in this movie? You know, Tiffany Haddish, though, like I'm picturing her smoking marijuana, and I'm trying to picture her doing this and having her ridiculous fantasy sequence, and I think she could actually make it really funny. We don't have a choice at this point, so be optimistic in some light.
Man, this movie sucks.
Also, the one other nostalgic moment when I think needs to remain is the whole get up the garage door, confinement get up. Does that fit into our new movie?
Well, yeah, he's still kidnapped. They got to hold him for a week, so I'm fine with that. Strap him up 50 Shades style to a garage door opener.
Complete with ball gag and everything. Yep.
Somebody has been thinking about that for a while. All right.
Somebody's building her own contraption at her house right now.
I wish I would have thought about, I could have used the cut to rule out dream sequences. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, so sad. So sad.
I still got a Hemsworth.
If you wouldn't have used that for Hemsworth, she probably would have let that go. No, she wouldn't have. But you'd have a better chance.
No, I wanted Bonneville bad.
Well, then I guess I really won, even though I lost in the end. That sucks. I don't want that. All right, well,
you know what? The audience wins because the fantasy sequences are amazing. I've done this for everybody else because I'm a giver. You're welcome.
I do love how they dance around the Disney rights with the Snow White portion.
Where they just change very little.
Yeah, it's totally a ripoff of Snow White. I'm just sitting here going, Disney had to call. Because it's not a Disney movie. They had to have called at some point.
They made
all the way down to her outfit. Her outfit is exactly like Snow White. And I don't know if you noticed, but when she goes over near a bookshelf, and there's a book on the bookshelf that says How to Be the Man or something. It's really funny. It's in his office. Yeah.
There's a book that says How to Be a Man?
It's something, I can't remember what the book said, but it's like How to Be the Big Man or something. You got to go and rewind it and look for the book.
Probably just going to look for the book. I could use it. It'd be helpful.
Okay, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to tell you one thing before I go. Don't you ever refer to me as your girl again.
What in God's name are you talking about? Dorley, what are we going to do about this chair?
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm no girl. I'm a woman. Do you hear me? I'm not your wife or your mother or even your mistress.
What?
I am your employee, and as such, I expect to be treated equally, with a little dignity and a little respect.
What do you mean, mistress?
Never mind, she's just a little upset.
Dorley, just come off it, for God's sake. The whole company knows you two are having an affair.
Who's been saying we're having an affair?
Who's been saying it? He has.
What?
Violet, where are you going? I'm gonna get drunk.
Atta girl. So, you've been telling everybody I'm sleeping with you, huh?
No.
Well, that explains it. That's why these people treat me like some dime store floozy.
No,
they think I'm screwing the boss.
That's not it at all.
Oh, and you just love it, don't you? It gives you some sort of cheap thrill, like knocking over pencils and picking up papers.
Now, let's don't get excited.
Get your scummy hands off of me. Look, I've been straight with you from the first day I got here, and I put up with all your pinching and staring and chasing me around the desk because I need this job, but this is the last straw.
All right, now wait, let's just sit down and...
Look, I got a gun out there in my purse, and up to now I've been forgiving and forgetting because of the way I was brought up, but I'll tell you one thing. If you ever say another word about me or make another indecent proposal, I'm going to get that gun of mine, and I'm going to change you from a rooster to a hen with one shot.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for our movie. We have a final movie, so now you got to get to the final pitch. This is where, courtesy of Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com, we'll present to you our movie in movie trailer parody form. This is Wayne's version, our version of 9 to 5.
3 women have learned the hard way that there's no way they're climbing this corporate ladder. They've used their minds, and they're tired of never getting the credit they deserve. So, rather than taking it, they decide to pour themselves a cup of ambition, kidnapping their sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot of a boss in the process. Now, they're leveling the playing field and turning this rich man's game around. Tina Fey, Kate McKinnon, Tiffany Haddish, and Chris Hemsworth star in a reimagining of the comedy classic, and this one is closing with a twist you'll never see coming. Next summer, get back to working. 9 to 5. It's enough to drive you crazy, if you let it.
Good job, Wayne. Good job.
Woo! Nice.
Demand.
You sounded so much like Dolly Parton. It's scary. All right. Now, before we move on, we've got some listener thoughts on 9 to 5. We put this in our Facebook group and just asking anybody to share any thoughts they might have. Peter Dennis says, great memories, 9 to 5. Firstly, I love this movie. Watched it over and over as a kid. Secondly, my father had hundreds of VHS tapes with movies on them, and we, by accident, discovered that after 9 to 5, they were some of my dad's adult movies. So whenever I think of 9 to 5, I think of the first time I was exposed to porn.
That's a good story.
Well.
Good old VHS tapes.
Yeah, that's something. Thomas Bex says, I remember it not well, but fondly, and I love the song. I used it in a presentation of our student association, and it kicked ass. Yep. Sure
Good
does.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua O'Gara says, I, too, also have some great memories on the movie 9 to 5. I might watch it tonight on Netflix because 9 to 5 has all but been one of my favorites. Anytime it is on TV, I watch it, which is, I watch it anytime it's on. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Joshua. Sherry, I remember that my grandma was so excited that Dolly was in a movie. We made it a 3-generation movie afternoon. Great memories with my mom and grandma. Now, Remake notes, if this was made today, 15-minute movie tops, harassment, complaint, boss fired, end credits. That's probably pretty accurate. It would be pretty close to that.
It would become like an instructional video for the sexual harassment training at the company.
I think this movie probably started all sexual harassment training because I was actually shocked that he got away with some of this stuff. I mean, some of
It
it's...
was the 80s, man.
Yeah. It was the 80s, man. All right, Courtney, are we close enough to meeting your dream in terms of this movie?
Man, I didn't get my Bonneville, but I did get my Tina Fey. So, yeah, I can live with it. It's good.
Well, you can't get everything you want.
You can sleep happy tonight.
Unless you kidnap some people. I guess that's how you get things done in the 80s.
Yep. Antics abound.
That's what happens when you smoke marijuana, kids. Be careful.
Marijuana.
Don't smoke the marijuana.
It's a tale, really.
Exactly. All right, well, before we close the show out, I want to make sure to mention that Wayne Henderson, once again, can be found at mediavoiceovers.com. We're at remakethismovieright.com. You can subscribe and review us via Apple Podcasts. Please do review the show if you like it. It really does help. We're also on Stitcher or your podcast app of choice. And email us at remakethismovieright@gmail.com if you have any thoughts on this week's episode. We're also on Twitter at remakeright. And please share the show on your social media outlets. Facebook, Reddit, whatever you use, Twitter, whatever it is, just tell people that you liked it. Tell people what you listened to and that you dug it so more people will check out the podcast. That would be great. Thank you, Amanda, for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
And Courtney, thanks for attempting to touch a childhood classic.
Thank you very much.
Also, Courtney, thanks for not murdering us for having difference of opinions. At least so far.
I embrace all differences of opinion, and we can disagree about the extent to which you are wrong, which is a lot.
Now, explain to me, because I don't really watch Downton Abbey. Not that I'm against it. I do love Dan Stevens. But why? What's this Hugh guy? Why do you like this Hugh Grant guy so much? I'm sorry, Hugh
Oh, my
Bonneville.
goodness. So once again, his name is Hugh Bonneville.
She's going to need a fan.
He is such a proper British lord in the show, so I thought it would just be really funny to see him go completely, what's the right word that Dabney Coleman was, smarmy and terrible and inappropriate.
Okay.
It's like watching your grandmother curse.
Is he an
funny.
old guy? Is he a very old guy?
I'd say he's probably in his late 50s or 60s, maybe.
So he's not spry.
No, he's not spry, but he was just a pillar of righteousness and family and proper, etiquette. So I thought it'd be fun to see him do something raunchy.
It's too bad it didn't happen. That's what I.
It'd be fun to watch Tiffany Haddish tell him, "I'm gonna change you from a wrist to your hand in one shot."
Well, instead, we're gonna get Paul Feig's Chris Hemsworth movie, and basically
oh my God,
he's going to
piss
have
off Steve
he's going to have glasses. And he's going to poke through the glasses, and he's not going to have lenses. We're going to have some of that.
Oh, my God.
Just kidding.
You're making so many people cringe right now.
Okay, well, the credits have rolled on this remake, so please be sure to come back for our next one. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And remember that every film you love will get a reboot someday, and only you can remake that movie right.
While you're working 9 to 5.
What a way to make a living. I think you owe Dolly Parton $12.